The checkout line at the Cedar Grove Walmart moved slowly that evening, fluorescent lights humming quietly overhead, the low murmur of shoppers and beeping registers filling the space with familiar, ordinary noise. Daniel Reyes stood near the back of the line, dressed plainly in a gray jacket and jeans, a small basket of groceries in his hand, unrecognized among the tired evening crowd. Very few people knew him on sight outside of business circles. He preferred it that way. After building Reyes Holdings into one of the largest logistics companies in the country, he still found comfort in ordinary errands, quiet moments where no one expected anything from him beyond simply being another customer in line. Ahead of him stood a woman, her cart modest but carefully organized, a loaf of bread, a small carton of eggs, a bag of rice, and a single, worn stuffed rabbit peeking out from beneath a folded blanket near the child's seat, where a young girl sat quietly, swinging her legs and humming softly to herself. When the cashier announced the total, the woman, whose name tag from a work badge clipped to her purse read Vivian, reached carefully into a small coin purse, counting out quarters and dimes with practiced, careful precision. Her hands moved without embarrassment, though Daniel noticed the slight tension in her shoulders, the quiet awareness of the growing line behind her. "That's $4.12, the cashier said gently, watching Vivian count. "I know," Vivian said calmly, continuing steadily. "Just give me 1 second. Daniel's eyes drifted, almost unconsciously, toward the cart again, and this time, something else caught his attention. Tucked carefully beside the groceries sat a small box of children's fever reducer and a bottle of electrolyte solution, the same brand, the same familiar packaging he remembered vividly from another lifetime, another checkout line, decades earlier. He froze, memory rising sharply and unexpectedly. He was 9 years old again, standing beside his own mother in a checkout line much like this one, watching her count coins carefully from a small envelope, buying medicine for his younger sister during a difficult winter when work had been scarce and money scarcer still. He remembered the quiet shame in his mother's eyes, quickly replaced by fierce, protective determination, refusing to let anything stop her from getting what her children needed. Daniel blinked, returning to the present moment, watching Vivian finish counting out the last of her change, her daughter watching curiously from the cart. "All set," Vivian told the cashier, a small, relieved smile crossing her face as the register finally cleared. As she gathered her bags, Daniel stepped forward instinctively. "Excuse me," he said gently. "I couldn't help but notice, is your daughter feeling all right?" Vivian glanced at him, cautious but polite. "She's got a mild fever," she said. "Nothing serious, just enough to keep her home from school tomorrow." "I hope she feels better soon," Daniel said sincerely, then hesitated only briefly before continuing. "This might sound unusual, but would you mind if I paid for your groceries today?" Vivian's expression shifted immediately, surprise mixing quickly with quiet defensiveness. "That's kind of you, but I don't need charity. I managed just fine." "I know you did," Daniel said gently. "That wasn't really my point. Watching you count out that change reminded me of my own mother, a long time ago, doing exactly the same thing for me and my sister. I'd like to help, if you'll let me, not because you need it, but because I understand what it means." Vivian studied him carefully, something shifting slowly behind her cautious expression. "You really don't have to." "I know," Daniel said simply. "I want to." After a long moment, Vivian nodded slowly, quiet gratitude replacing her earlier hesitation. "Thank you," she said softly. "That means more than you probably realize." As Daniel paid for her groceries at the register, adding a few extra items, more electrolyte solution, a small bag of oranges, a fresh loaf of bread, Vivian watched with quiet surprise. "You didn't have to add all of that," she said. "I know," Daniel said, smiling faintly. "But sometimes it helps to have a little extra, just in case." They walked out together toward the parking lot, continuing to talk. Vivian explained she worked as an office assistant nearby, raising her daughter alone since her divorce 2 years earlier, managing carefully but often stretching every dollar as far as it could go. "It's not easy," she admitted honestly. "But we manage." "You clearly do more than manage," Daniel said. "That takes real strength." Something about his quiet sincerity settled comfortably between them as they reached her car. Before parting ways, Daniel hesitated, then reached into his jacket, retrieving a simple business card. "If you're ever looking for something more stable," he said, "reach out. I run a logistics company downtown. We're always looking for reliable, hardworking people." Vivian glanced at the card, her eyes widening slightly as she recognized the name printed clearly beneath the company logo. "Reyes Holdings, you're..." Just someone who remembers what it felt like counting coins at a checkout line, Daniel said simply, offering a small, genuine smile. The company part doesn't change that. Vivian studied him for a long moment, clearly surprised, yet strangely comforted by his humility. Thank you, she said finally. Truly. As Daniel walked back toward his own car, he found himself thinking about his mother, about the quiet resilience she'd shown throughout his childhood, and how easily that same resilience seemed to live on in strangers he passed every day, if only he paused long enough to notice. Weeks later, Vivian called the number on the card, eventually accepting a position within the company's logistics coordination team, work that offered steady hours, dependable pay, and benefits that finally provided her daughter with consistent medical coverage. Months after that, during a quiet company event, Vivian approached Daniel once more, her daughter healthy and cheerful beside her. I still think about that night at the store, she admitted. You didn't just help us. You saw us. Daniel considered her words carefully. Sometimes, he said, that's the only thing people really need, someone willing to actually see them. As he watched Vivian's daughter laugh freely nearby, the same quiet contentment settling over him that he remembered from childhood moments long since past, Daniel felt, once again, that the truest measure of success had very little to do with wealth, and everything to do with remembering where you came from.